Hi, and welcome, everybody. It's Thursday, October 21st. I'm Ross Benjamin. As always, on a Thursday, I'm joined by Doug Upstone. This is our NFL betting edition. And I'd like to excuse myself because my voice, it's allergy season here in the Northeast. Unlike Doug, who's got a cool day of 81 in Arizona, we go through some temperature fluctuations here in Western New York that could wreak havoc on your allergies if you have those. Anyway, Doug, enough about me. How are you, my friend?
I am doing well. And yes, well, here though, there's lots of allergies here. Now, some people don't realize that because one of the things that happens here, stuff grows here literally all year round. So depending on what you're allergic to, a lot of people actually do have allergies, and it can vary from year to year. Not that I'm here to play doctor or anything like that, but to your point, yeah, for some people, and not me, fortunately, I'm pleasant. I'm very happy. What is it? Look at the thing. It's 88 degrees right now as we speak, Ross. So it's a wonderful day. Sun's out. So here we go. And now we're talking football. How can you beat that?
Grind it in, buddy. Grind it in.
Be it whatever it takes.
Exactly. Anyway, Doug, I'm looking at this week's schedule in the NFL. There's 10 games on Sunday, and 3 of the games involve double-digit favorites. And I'm seeing a lot of double-digit favorites since the start of last season, and really starting to question the parity in the NFL, if there is any. And we talked off air, and you have some interesting points to bring up. But you had 3 teams this week. The Tampa Bay Bucks are 12.5-point favorite against Chicago. The Rams at -15 against Detroit. And Arizona 17.5 against Houston. I mean, here it's week 7, and we got a 17.5-point favorite, even though Houston's an exception to the rule because, as we discussed, Doug, I mean, Houston goes in thinking they're going to have Deshaun Watson before he has all kinds of lawsuits on his hands. And then they thought they had a solid plan B with Tyrod Taylor. He gets hurt in the opener. And Davis Mills is their starting quarterback now. And if you don't know Davis Mills, he was the starting quarterback at Stanford last year. It was the only year he started. And quite frankly, he didn't wow you at Stanford either. So a lot of factors involved. But, Doug, some interesting side notes here too is 41 games since last year with double-digit favorites. 27 of those games have gone under the total, which, calling it the double squeeze if you like the double-digit favorite, and then you're betting the under as well. But I was sort of surprised by that because you would think in those lopsided games there's a very good chance of it going over, but the numbers speak elsewhere. On top of that, this season, double-digit favorites have gone 6-2 straight up in ATS. Wow. And you know what? If those double-digit favorites were off a win, they're 4-0 straight up in ATS this year. And they win by 29 points per game. Guess what? All 3 of the double-digit favorites this week are off a win. Anyway, your thoughts, my friend.
Yeah, those are all very good, very interesting numbers and very good information. I think you're right. And if you actually kind of look at it, the NFL in maybe a slightly different way, is that there's less of a let's just put it this way. There's probably about 7 or 8 teams that are better than everybody else. Okay. And there's about 7 or 8 teams that are really bad. Okay. And that seems to be what the deal is now. Now, I mean, it's not that many years ago, Ross, that, there was, if you saw in the course of a season, maybe 12 or 14 double-digit favorites over the entire year, that was, now I could be wrong on that, but that number, I'm not too far off, I don't think.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So, and then, and back in those days too, that was an automatic play on the underdog. I mean, you would never, seldom ever take a double-digit favorite. Okay.
In the NFL.
But today's world, geez, I mean, it's a completely different deal. And you mentioned Houston. Their situation, let's put it this way, they went to the playoffs in 2018 and 2019. And then Bill O'Brien basically became the general manager out of necessity, I guess, or actually it happened in 19, but a couple of terrible trades. So as it turns out, the high water mark of the franchise was the last year when they were 4-12.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that's kind of how quickly things went downhill. And, for example, like DeAndre Hopkins, that trade, yikes. Well, certainly the worst one in Houston history. And I'm going to venture out and say maybe a top
Close to
10
the
all
worst in
time.
the NFL history, right, Doug?
Well, it's a top 10 for sure, in that one. So yeah. And the other thing you and I talked about briefly is I do power ratings for all the teams and have 3 different sets. And what, right now, I mean, all 3 games I have as double digits. I mean, I think I should because power ratings are accurate, but that just tells you that, you look at the lines, you go, oh, geez, that can't be. But then you do the work and all of a
Yeah.
sudden you see, yeah, that's what it should be. It's right in that range. So it's kind of like, that's where we are right now with the NFL. And, we just have to work around it. But neither side is an automatic play now.
Yeah. I mean, you look at divisions this year. I mean, Buffalo's only 4-2, but they're far and away the best team in the AFC East. The Dallas Cowboys at 5-1 there, Doug,
Yep.
and won 5 in a row. And I can't see anybody contending with them in the NFC East unless, God forbid, Dak Prescott goes down with an injury next week. And you look at last year in the NFC, you had a 7-9 team win the NFC East, and you had an 8-8 team in the Chicago Bears qualify as an NFC wildcard team. So obviously the AFC was top heavy because the Miami Dolphins didn't make the playoffs and they went 10-6. So go figure. Anyway, just something, food for thought. And it's something to keep an eye on, folks, because Doug's right. I've done some studies on this, and there's been an inordinate, especially last year. Okay. When you look at last year, there was 35 games that involved double-digit favorites. And I believe if you went back 5 years, you had 35 combined. And it almost equaled that just last year alone. So in any event, folks, it is what it is. Doug's right, too. Again, it used to be a cardinal rule for guys in our seats to say you never lay a double-digit number with the favorite in the NFL. Now you have to stop and think, I mean, look, 6-2 against the spread this year as double-digit favorites. Anyway, Doug, any other thoughts on the NFL, what we've seen so far?
Yeah, it's nothing in particular. It's just, this is a little more difficult week because there's only 13 games that you're working with. And then if you're one that is, not really sure about the 3 games that, there are 3 teams that we're talking about that are this bad or this good, now you're down to 10.
Yeah.
And then, for example, the Thursday night game, you got a beat up Cleveland team going against Denver, who is, they're not doing so well all of a sudden that way.
Yeah.
Narrows them down pretty quick, Ross.
Yeah. I mean, you got a Cleveland team that's given up a boatload of points the last 2 weeks. It loses a game when they scored 40 plus. Last week, they get blown out by Arizona 37-14. And now this week, they're a 1.5 point favorite. A lot has to do with Baker Mayfield being out. So who knows? I mean, that's not a game I was willing to touch. I don't know if you did, but
Nope.
I passed on that game. Sometimes a pass is a win, folks. You know what I mean? You just don't want to throw. Look, if you could take that game being played tonight, okay, and depending on when you view this video, the game might have went off already. Having said that, let's just be hypothetical and say you're watching it live, watching us live right now. If that game goes off tonight, and you look at the rest of the card, you took that game and put it on the Sunday card, for instance, with 10 or 11 other games, would you use it? And if the answer is no, then why would you use it just because it's the only game to bet that night? So keep that in mind, folks. You know what I mean? It's a long season. There's a lot to choose from. If there's a lot better value on Sunday, even Monday, compared to this game tonight, and I'm using tonight as an example, going forward as well. Those standalone games could be your biggest nightmare because you get off to a bad start on a Thursday game and you're climbing uphill, and your mentality when you start handicapping for Sunday or betting for Sunday changes. And Doug knows exactly what I mean. Your emotions get involved. Now you feel like you're chasing, you're climbing uphill. So be careful with that. Doug, you got a free play for us in the NFL on Sunday.
Ross, I happen to, as luck would have it. So we'll get to that. And here's the deal, though. It's one of the games and the teams we've just been talking about. It's Arizona and Houston. As you said, there's an absolutely huge number on this game. And, like I said, taking favorites and taking underdogs, it's tough. I mean, you could make a case for Houston, maybe hanging around if Arizona's not interested, maybe winning by 14 points, maybe even up to 17. I'm sorry, Arizona winning by that amount. Or you could also make a case that, they should just blow them out like Houston has been frequently this year, win by 20 or more. The other aspect of this game, okay, that to look at is the total. Now, if I remember correctly, the last total I saw was 47.5 on this game. And so you could make a case, okay, for the under if Arizona is not particularly interested. But what happens if Houston, as has been their ilk this year, starts committing turnovers? Well, Arizona's going to turn those into points. So then now all of a sudden the under that you had goes over. And so you got all this stuff going on in between. So here's what I'm going to do. Okay. I'm going to look at the first half line. Now, there's not as much value on it. Okay. At last I saw it was a -10. Okay. But Arizona has Green Bay when this game is played. They have Green Bay in 4 days afterwards. So I'm looking at this instead to say, you know what? I think the coaching staff with Kingsbury, the whole intent will be to get off to a fast start. And so with that being the case, if they do, like I expect that they would, if they're up 21-3, 24-6, well, they can start pulling a couple guys, maybe run the ball more in the second half if they build themselves up a lead and they coast to a victory and don't have to put as much effort into the game. I think that makes sense to me. So I'm looking at taking Arizona -10 here. And the other factor that comes into play, Ross, the Texans are 0-6 against the first half line after they have allowed 25 or more points in 3 straight games. I'm good to go with taking Arizona -10 on the first half line.
Interesting. And the logic is sound. And to Doug's point, Green Bay, for example, opened at 9.5 and they've come down to 8 in their game against Washington. And I'm sure a lot of the thinking is along the same lines. I think more so with Green Bay, they're looking and saying, okay, Washington hasn't played well this year, but they're not horrible. And Green Bay can't help but think that 4 days from now, they're going to be playing an undefeated Arizona team, unless something bizarre happens on Sunday. You never know in the NFL, right? Anyway, good logic, Doug. And Doug likes Arizona in the first half. What's that first half line, Doug?
We're looking at -10 was the last I saw.
So -10 with Arizona in the first half over the Houston Texans. I'm going to take a look at a more competitive game. The Kansas City Chiefs at the Tennessee Titans. Kansas City right now, they opened at 3.5 and they're up to 5.5. So Tennessee's coming off that thrilling win against Buffalo, huge win for them. And especially with the schedule they got coming up, they lose that game, they're 3-3, and it might be a difficult climb for them the rest of the way. So that was a pivotal win. Got a little bit lucky. I shouldn't say lucky, but fortunate. They stopped Buffalo on a 4th and a foot play with 4 on the 4-yard line with 22 seconds to go. McDermott passed on the field goal, which, by the way, Doug, I 100% agree with. And especially when you got a quarterback that's made 10 of 11 this year on 3rd or 4th in 1 or less. So in any event, let's move on to this game. Kansas City, by the way, after getting lambasted against Buffalo 2 weeks ago, they go at Washington. They fall behind 13-10 at the half. And there's a lot of people out there, I can guarantee you, are going, I told you, Kansas City's just not that good this year. Well, guess what? They woke up in the second half, outscored the football team 21-0, and walked away with a 31-13 win. So, if you're one of those guys that looks at common opponents and you factor that into your handicapping equation, follow me on this. Tennessee knocks off Buffalo last week, 34-31 as an underdog. It's as high as a 6-point underdog they were. Buffalo goes to Kansas City as an underdog 2 weeks ago and thoroughly embarrasses the Chiefs in a 38-20 win. Now Kansas City goes to Tennessee, common opponent being Buffalo. And it's not like this is game 15 and both teams played Buffalo in game 3 and 2. It's, they played them consecutively. And here we have Kansas City opening up as a 3.5-point favorite and going to 5.5. And I know people who want to connect the dots. If Team A beat Team B, then Team B beat Team C, then Team A surely has to beat Team C. Not that easy, folks. It really isn't. Trust me. And I think I could speak for Doug when I say that. Now, having said that, you also got to look at the fact Tennessee's been one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL, not only this year, but last year. They're 24th as we speak. They're coming off a game in which Josh Allen torched them for 353 yards in 3 touchdowns. And if it wasn't for Derrick Henry running the ball so well, who knows what would have happened, because that helped them in time of possession. Now they're going to go against Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City, the last I checked, is a pretty good passing offense. Number 1 in the NFL last year, number 2 this year. Tennessee was dead last in the NFL against the pass last year, and they're number 24 this year. So where am I going with this? Kansas City's going to pass the ball at will. And guess what? When you fall behind 14 points in a game, all of a sudden you can't lean on your running game as much. And you have to become a little more one-dimensional. Doug, I'm just not impressed with Ryan Tannehill. If the game has to rest on his shoulders, he's good in play action pass. He's good when he's playing with the lead, but when they fall behind, he's not a quarterback I have 100% confidence in. So where I'm going with this, you guessed it. I'm taking Kansas City minus 5.5 over Tennessee, and Doug Upstone, he's taking the Arizona Cardinals minus 10 in the first half over the Houston Texans. Doug, what do you got going on this weekend? And tell the folks where they can find you at Doc Sports.
Absolutely. Well, I promised everybody that I would come clean on the NFL, and I had a horrible week in the NFL last week. So what do we got to do? Got to turn it around. I'm still 14-8 on the season. So, and I've hit 5 out of 6 of my best bets. So this week I got a big 5-play card in the NFL with another top-rated 7-unit play, plus 6 more on the college card coming off of a 4-2 week. So 30-21 the last 6 weeks overall. Not quite what I would take it if the NFL wouldn't have happened last week, but it did. We move on, we go forward, and we try and come up with some more winners. And that's what I'm out to do, Ross. So just look up Doug Upstone at DocSports.com, and that package is ready to go.
Doc Sports is a great website with some great handicappers, including Doug. And Doug's been at the top of the list for quite a while now. And I hope I'm not offending anybody by that. I'm just stating the fact. He's been one of the top handicappers at Docs through baseball and through football now. So 30-21, folks, even with a bad NFL week, that's just a shade over 60%. And a lot of you out there who say, I could do 60% on my own, I want to book your bets, okay? Not for 1 week. I want to book them for an entire season. Because if you do the math at 60%, a shade under 60%, Doug's making you a lot of money. So again, that's Doug Upstone at DocSports.com. You can find me at my website, which is rbwins.com. And last week, I'm coming off hitting my 10-star NFL game of the month on the Baltimore Ravens, who lambasted the LA Chargers 34-6. Unfortunately, New England cost me a winning day as we lose that game in overtime as a 3.5-point dog with Dallas scoring that touchdown in overtime. And a youngster, Mac Jones, who's done very well as a rookie, but he threw a pick with less than 3 minutes to go with a two-point lead. And guess what? That got returned to the house. So there were some factors there that were a little bit unusual, but it's all part of it. And look, I've been having a difficult time in football, both college football and the NFL. I did hit that big play last Sunday, but overall, I'm the first one to tell you when I'm not doing bad and also beat on my chest when I'm doing good. I mentioned allergies. I could assure you, one of my allergies isn't to winning. Okay. So I've been doing this a long time, and I expect the rest of the season to go very well. So you can find me at rbwins.com, Doug Upstone at docsports.com, one of the best handicappers in the country. Great website. Visit there as well, folks. Until the next time, for Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, we'd like to wish each and every one of you all the best. Take care and God bless.